Welcome to the Glow Code podcast. My name is Kate Dove and I'm your host. The Glow Code podcast is a collection of bite-sized conversations designed to help you step into your main character energy, glow up, and connect with your femininity. This podcast is for the woman who wants to radiate her beauty from the inside out and move through the world with authenticity. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode, and let's get started. Hi everyone, welcome back to the podcast. On the day that this is being uploaded, it is my 24th birthday. And usually I record these episodes like a couple of days beforehand, but I am recording this a little over a week before because the week of my birthday, my husband is taking his vacation time and I just want to be very present with him. So right now at the time of this recording, I'm not sure what we have planned for the week, other than our bathroom getting remodeled, so that's going to be exciting. And for today's episode, I wanted to share 24 things that I learned in 24 years. And I will say I do feel extremely grateful that I grew up in an era with the internet and social media, even though, of course, there are some downsides to both of those things, but there's positive and negative to everything. And it's because I discovered manifestation and spirituality from such a young age, and at the age of 18 I was really able to start honing in on my intuition. And now at 24, there's always going to be so much to work on, but I feel so grateful for being able to understand spiritual laws and reflections and how to use my intuition and all of that. And I have my list here in front of me that I can go back to and read off of, and I think I did put a couple of things about intuition in there. So let's start with number 1. Let each chapter of your life be a puzzle piece, not a block. I hear so often when people are struggling, like, what is my block? How do I work through my block? And I believe I mentioned this in a previous episode where the word kind of just rolls off the tongue, it feels kind of natural to say, what is my block? Because we're not sure how to move forward. But I like to rephrase it, and I like to think about our challenges and reflections differently. And I see every one of those moments as a puzzle piece, because at the end of the day, it will all make sense. When I was a teenager, I wanted to be a teacher/dancer. I didn't know if I wanted to be like a professional backup dancer or if I wanted to just teach dance like in a school, because where I went to high school, dance was an elective and we had a teacher who worked full-time just teaching dance, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And after realizing I didn't want to do either of those things, I went down the path of intuition, realized that I didn't want to run a business in the way I was pursuing it, and then started writing books and becoming an author. So even though these things seem so unrelated, the lessons that I learned from pursuing each thing have all brought me to this moment, where especially when I'm writing my books, I'm able to really dive into these different flavors of feminine energy and relationships. And I also have my intuition to plan out fun things like book launches and my next moves and all of that. So whenever you're in a moment of your life where you're like, why am I blocked? Like, how do I move past this? Just realize that this moment of your life fits into the puzzle and it is not separate from it. Number 2, romance is not hopeless. So I'm not sure how it's completely going in the dating space today, because I did meet my now husband in high school, but I do try to keep up with it. And what I see is that there's a lot of hopelessness, or, we have that phrase like being a hopeless romantic, but romance truly is not hopeless. Instead, actually, I see it as devotion. And I think that in a society where we are so disconnected from devotion to ourselves because we are trying to chase money, find stability, etc., we don't recognize what it means to devote ourselves. And devotion is so necessary for romance because it's an offering, it's an understanding of an exchange. And I've been able to witness this growth of romance in my relationship, especially going from being teenagers to where we are now as young adults. And as a teenager, we actually had less romance in our relationship than we do now, which I find so interesting. And I also think there is the belief that, like, as the years go by in a relationship, romance fades. But I think it's because we get so caught up in the daily grind and losing, again, that devotion to ourselves that it tends to pop up in our romantic relationships. But romance is not hopeless at all. Instead, it requires your presence and your commitment. Number 3, don't force something before it's ready. And I used to do this all the time in business, where I was so focused on trying to make money that I would launch like courses and programs before the ideas were fully formed. And I know for some people that works, like they can put out something and not have all the details. But oftentimes for people who really enjoy that, like they'll have that momentum and that drive to do the thing and to pursue it. But what I've learned for me and the way that I work is that slowness really is a gift, and we actually find more movement when we are able to slow down. And I think of the story of the tortoise and the hare with this situation because I feel like it's such a perfect example. And I also use my intuition to tune into this and see, especially for creative projects, where something currently is energetically, and just giving things time to really simmer. When it comes to self-growth, especially, we just want to be on the other side really fast and not deal with the issue anymore. But it is that slowness where we learn the most valuable lessons. Number 4, your mind is more malleable than you think. We have this joke in my family of like all of us being stubborn, and I think we get so attached to personality traits that we have held on for years that we don't know what it feels like to let them go and to actually find freedom without those traits. Now, there are some things that are just like they're part of our personality. Like, I will say that in some situations I am definitely stubborn, but I'm also so much more open. And it feels good that way to not want to fight against things. So if you're like, oh, that's just part of my personality, I would really invite you to think, what would my reality be like if I had balance with this personality trait? If I were, let's say, fiery, but also able to receive opinions of others, able to receive support, and just having that balance and harmony with your personality trait. That leads me into number 5, which is you don't have to stay the same person you were a year ago. Especially with our relationships, we can fear that if we change, those people are going to shut us out. And that can definitely happen. Those reflections can come up. But when we allow ourselves to evolve, we actually make room for more love, and we're able to receive more of the authenticity of the people in our lives as well. Number 6, strive for balance, not excitement. Especially with social media, we can have this mindset of keeping up with the Joneses because we want the next best thing. We just want to get to the next stage of life and put all of our energy behind that. But that is different from commitment, because commitment is sticking to something long term through ups and downs and creating a stable life. Especially with manifestation, we can often hear like, get excited, but we want to be able to hold what we are calling into our life. Now, when I say balance, I don't mean like you need to have an equal amount of activity going on in each area of life, but just that you have the same amount of love and respect for yourself in one area of life as you do for another. Number 7, your intuition is your best friend. Intuition has changed my life, learning to use my intuition, and I've always been intuitive, and I really felt my intuitive gifts starting to really come to the surface at about 11 or 12 years old. And I also always had an interest in like psychics and spirituality, but intuition is more about, or I should say, intuition is so much more than asking questions about when something will happen or how to bring something into your life. It's also such a beautiful way to be able to understand what your body needs, what your mind needs, what your soul needs, and nourish yourself in that way. And also when we are feeling a lot of emotions around a situation and we're like going back and forth between something, our intuition is able to give us clear guidance and direction. Number 8, probably one of my favorites, fall in love with being a woman. And I was thinking about this earlier today because I'm on the first day of my bleed, but so many of us don't enjoy being a woman, or we are constantly saying it sucks to be a woman, I hate my body, or constantly like dissecting yourself in a way. And what I've learned is that falling in love with being a woman has such a profound effect on the body and also our interaction with others. So especially with our menstrual cycle, I used to be that girl who would get dizzy, pass out, have headaches, bloating, like any period symptom that you can think of, I had it. And when I was 18, I thought to myself, like, there has to be a different way. Like, this can't just be life and reality. And I have really shifted that and stabilized my hormones and my cycle, and now I really don't even get cramps anymore either. I'll have like a little bit of pressure, but I'm not in pain or bloated or anything like that. And part of it was building respect for my body rather than just focusing on what's uncomfortable or what sucks. And that doesn't mean that it's not your truth in the present, but things shift in our body when we begin to appreciate it and respect it and see how what we are experiencing is a gift in our life. That brings me to number 9, cherish your body because it's sacred. Our body holds on to our emotions. Our body communicates with us. It shows us what we need, what might be missing, and we can especially see this in our menstrual cycle. There are energetic roots behind everything, but I find the energetic roots of period symptoms to be really fascinating, and that's also something I learned while I was healing my cycle. So definitely cherish your body because you're only in this body once, and honestly, see what you can do with your potential. Why not? You're here in this identity, in this lifetime, and it's something that you have the opportunity to explore. Number 10, notice how it's all working out for you. This connects with the first one, with the puzzle piece scenario, but even when we are struggling and we don't know how everything is going to work out, if we are able to have awareness in the situation and recognize how it is a gift for us, even if we are sad, grieving, frustrated, we are able to come out of it on the other side. 11, call in support when you need it. And I know, especially for us women in this modern age, we want to prove ourselves and we want to feel like we can do things. But even if we are capable of doing something, it doesn't make us weak to ask for help or call in support. And when we have the right support around us, whether it is a partner or our friends or our colleagues, it only elevates us and helps us to move further towards whatever our goals are. Number 12, don't be afraid to try new things, especially in your early 20s. I would say this is the time to really learn, what are you gifted in? What do you love to do? What do you love to speak about? What are some things that have just always been there in your life, whether it is a talent or even a reoccurring theme in your life that you just get so passionate about? And we can actually take some of our struggles and turn them into gifts and turn them into career pursuits if we desire, like I'm doing right now with this podcast. But your early 20s is definitely the time to try things out and see what feels good for you. 13, if you feel the pull, do it. Don't delay. And I have a distinct memory with this in 2023, I believe it was, where I wasn't sure if I should participate in a coaching mentorship that I wanted to do, but part of it was speaking on stage at a conference. And I was laying in bed late at night. It was 11 o'clock at night, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it because when I look back 10 years from now, this is something that I want to have as part of my life experiences. And if you have that pull where your mind is going a month, a year, 5 years, 10 years into the future of what would it look like if I did this thing, don't delay on taking action. 14, your potential scares you only because you haven't seen how safe it is yet. We can get very comfortable in the patterns that we have, and it can feel awkward to change our experience of reality because we don't know what that is like. And it can feel really scary to change things about ourselves and about our experience, even if it's not serving us. But once we move through that, once we realize that we are safe, we're able to tap into more of our potential. 15, love for yourself is a necessity. Don't deny it. So this goes back to number 9 of cherishing yourself. And self-love isn't just being an influencer who's doing a get ready with me video and looking all pretty and beautiful. And that can be an expression of your self-love, but self-love comes back to respect. It comes back to the commitment that you give to yourself. It is taking care of yourself so that way you can take care of others and pursue the things that you want to do. 16, nurture your inner teenager. I find that there are so many traits of my personality that I embodied as a teenager that really resonate with me right now, but on a whole other level. Because at 16, I did have a much lower view of my self-image and just what I was willing to put up with from others even. But there's so many beautiful things about who I was then that I really want to carry into the rest of my life, because that version of me knew that I was intuitive, knew that I had this pull towards femininity and manifestation and sexuality. And when we were teenagers, we have so many reflections pop up. So I want to invite you to think on your experiences as a teenager and how beautiful you were in those moments, how you stood with integrity, even if that meant you were keeping yourself small, because there's a part of that experience that you can heal, and bringing forth that part of you that was nerdy or artistic or a social butterfly, even if that's how it was for you. Those can be such gifts for you now as an adult and bring forth a really playful energy. 17, play with life instead of fighting it. In the moments that are hard, I typically go through a short series of questions where I'm asking myself what this moment is trying to teach me. And what often happens is that I will create art from those moments, because that's my outlet, especially writing. Like if I'm going through something that's difficult, I'll turn to using poetic words or working on a creative project to alchemize what I'm feeling. And I used to do this as a teen a lot as well, because I was always questioning things, and I was always like going onto my Snapchat and making posts about different topics that were on my mind, especially about relationships and sexuality, which were such big topics in that time of my life. Like that's pretty much all that every teenager cared about was, so and so has a crush on this person, and how do I go about this thing? And it was just such an active topic around me. So I would turn to writing and I would jot out all of these thoughts that I had. So when you are going through moments that are challenging or where you're having reflections, look at the side of it where it's like, what new strength is this giving me? What gift can I take with this moving forward? Which leads us into 18. Be grateful for the things that seem like they're going wrong. When we have reflections popping up in our life, we need to feel thankful for them, because it is showing us right in front of our face where we are ready to up-level, what we are ready to shed, and where we need to grow. And that doesn't mean ignoring any negative feelings that come up. We don't want to repress feelings. We want to feel them and move through them and get them through our body, right? And shed in that way. But we also want to recognize how this is helping us to grow. 19, learn your personal style and how to glow. I love looking into fashion, and not like runway fashion, but learning about the Kibbe body types and color seasons, and using my astrology to see what would really amplify my magnetism. So play with that, because it is so fun and it's really interesting to see the results as well. 20. Validation is overrated. Strive for fulfillment. Oftentimes we want to push for appreciation and validation from others, but truly that comes from having inner fulfillment, because validation from others is so fleeting. But we can always validate ourselves, and we can always appreciate ourselves. And when we do that, we keep it consistent in our electromagnetic field, in our creator field, and we are then able to receive compliments. We're able to receive a promotion or a collaboration and things like that, because our our inner self is stable and peaceful rather than trying to push and beg for attention. And also, if you are wanting to get like a certain award or recognition, those things deserve to be celebrated 100%. But I would also encourage you to think about why you are wanting to attract something into your life, why you want to manifest the recognition, because that will show you where you're not currently giving that to yourself. However, when you set the standard and when you take the lead, other people can follow and then give you the recognition that honestly you kind of don't even want anymore, just that you don't think about it because you are already taking care of that for yourself. 21, creativity isn't childish, it's part of who you are. And also, creativity is linked to our sexuality. So I will find that if I'm not taking care of my creativity and nurturing my creativity, I won't feel as turned on in my life and my body. Or if I'm not feeling turned on in my body or not feeling sexy and beautiful and things like that, I won't feel creative. And creativity is such a beautiful expression of who we are, so definitely nurture that part of yourself. Also, if you keep hearing a clicking, that is my crock pot going again in the background. I think in the last episode I had something going in the crock pot too, but today we're making apple butter, so my house smells amazing right now. 22, learn to feel safe embracing your femininity. This was the topic of the very first episode of this podcast, and I would highly recommend going back and listening to that if you haven't heard it already. Femininity is not about wearing the pretty dresses and baking sourdough bread, and I'm saying that while also enjoying being that way, but femininity is about feeling safe in your body so that way you can receive what you want in life from your career, your finances, your relationships, etc. Femininity is about feeling open to receive. Femininity is also playful and creative, and it also has a very sensual feel to it. And by sensual, I don't mean outwardly sexual, but your senses are fully turned on and you're able to be present in life. This is so important because when we are truly embodied in our feminine, we feel safe. We don't feel the need to hustle for validation. We don't feel the need to overstep our own boundaries. We have our values, we have our boundaries, we stick to them, and we nurture ourselves, and we are committed to our inner peace. 23, stop shrinking yourself or pushing people's compliments away. I don't know why we have this in our society where it's like someone says, oh my god, you're so beautiful, and then the other person's like, oh no, like, you know, and shying away. But this is truly part of being embodied in our feminine as well, because it's a reflection of the self-love and self-image work that we are doing in ourselves. And sometimes it can also show up when we need to do more of that. Being in our feminine is also about being our fullest, authentic self. And when we are in our feminine, we definitely don't shrink. And finally, 24, establish in your mind that you only get smarter, hotter, and richer every year. Especially us women, there's this thing where it's like, as you get older, you lose your value. And I just don't believe that's true, because we gain so much wisdom as we get older. And when we are becoming wiser and when we are continuously growing ourselves, there's no choice but for that to reflect in our external reality. And I never really started thinking too far ahead until recently. Like, I've thought about my life in, my 30s, 40s, 50s, and so on, but not to the extent as I do now. And there are quite a few women who I enjoy following and learning from who are maybe 10, 15, 20 years older than me. And I'm just like, I cannot wait to be that age. And of course, I'm not like rushing it or anything. Everyone always says like, don't rush life. So it's not from that energy, but where I'm like, I didn't know that life could look that way at that age, and that things are only going to get better from here. Thank you for tuning into today's episode. If this landed for you, be sure to subscribe and leave a review, and I will see you in the next episode.